I used to think financial discipline meant suffering, like cold showers, no fun, eating plain rice, and staring at spreadsheets until your soul leaves your body. Then I accidentally ran into the Dutch version of money management, and it was so boring it almost felt illegal. No hustle, no magic apps, just a quiet, cultural immune system that blocks dumb spending before it happens. And I'm not exaggerating when I say it saved my financial life. Because I spent months copying Dutch habits on purpose, packing sandwiches, saying no without a speech, sending awkward little payment requests, buying everything secondhand, and treating saving like brushing my teeth. The weird part is, I didn't feel deprived. I felt calmer, richer even, without actually being rich yet. So if you're tired of motivational finance content that basically screams do more, here's the opposite. What I did to get better results by acting more Dutch, quietly, lazily, repeatedly. Here's exactly what I did. My starting point. I wasn't bad with money in a dramatic way. I wasn't buying yachts or throwing cash at crypto celebrities. I was doing the normal, socially acceptable version of financial self-sabotage. I was living paycheck to paycheck while looking like I was doing fine. My rent went up, my lifestyle crept up with it, and I kept telling myself, it's okay, I'm still responsible, I pay my bills. But my savings? Basically decorative. One car repair bill hit me. Nothing insane, just one of those surprise, your vehicle is now a money-eating demon moments, and it wiped out what little buffer I had. I remember sitting there, refreshing my bank app like the number might change out of pity. And the worst part wasn't even the money. It was the feeling of being fragile. Like my whole life could be thrown off by a dentist appointment, a flight home for a family emergency, or a laptop dying at the wrong time. I also had this problem where I'd treat myself as a reward for surviving the week, which sounds cute until you realize the reward is always overpriced takeout, random Amazon purchases, and subscriptions you forgot existed. And honestly, I was tired. Not just physically, financially tired. I didn't want to become a hardcore budget monk. I wanted a system that worked even when my motivation was low and my brain was fried. That's when I started noticing how Dutch people handle money. Not in a flashy financial guru way, in a daily life way. They bring lunch, they split costs, they don't apologize for being practical. They normalize boring, and boring is powerful. So I set a very unsexy goal. I wanted a real emergency fund, $10,000. Not because it's a magic number, but because for me it meant three things. First, no more panic when life happened. Second, I could stop using credit cards like emotional support animals. Third, I could start investing consistently, small amounts, without feeling like I was gambling rent money. I gave myself about 12 to 18 months. I wasn't trying to speed run it, I just wanted to prove to myself that I could build stability with hobbits, not heroics. And my rule was simple. If a Dutch hobbit felt too stingy, I'd test it for 2 weeks anyway. If it felt good, I kept it. If it made me miserable, I adjusted. This was my experiment, not a religion. The first habit that changed everything was what I call the sandwich era. In the Netherlands, bringing lunch isn't some sad desk lunch stereotype. It's normal. Adults pack sandwiches like it's a respected craft. So I copied it. Habit 1. I packed lunch the night before. Not a fancy meal prep situation. Literally bread, cheese, protein, fruit, done. Habit 2. I brought my own coffee or made it at home and carried it in a thermos. Habit 3. I kept emergency snacks in my bag so I wouldn't accidentally buy a $14 sandwich because I was hungry and dramatic. The lazy part was I made it default. I didn't ask myself every morning, will I be disciplined today? I just packed the same simple thing on autopilot. And the numbers were genuinely shocking. I was spending around $12 to $18 per workday on lunch and coffee if I bought it out. That's like $60 to $90 a week. When I packed it, it dropped to maybe $15 to $25 a week. Even if I'm conservative, that was an easy $200 to $300 a month saved without feeling like I gave up happiness. The funny thing is, after a couple weeks, my brain stopped craving the treat because I wasn't starving at 1 p.m. anymore. Have you ever noticed how most bad spending happens when you're hungry, tired, and slightly annoyed at the world? Yeah, same. The second category was the one I thought was stupid at first, the Dutch obsession with splitting costs. In the Netherlands, people use payment requests like Tikkie for everything: dinner, coffee, group gifts. One person pays, then everyone pays their share. No weird guilt. No "I'll get you next time" that never happens. Habit 4. I stopped auto-volunteering to cover the bill to be nice. Habit 5, when I did pay, I asked people to split it, politely, immediately, not 2 weeks later when it feels like a breakup text. Now, I'm not saying I sent a payment request for a single piece of gum. I'm lazy, not chaotic. But I created a simple rule. If it's a group meal, tickets, a shared Uber, a group gift, anything over about $15 per person, I split it. And yes, it felt awkward the first few times. I had this fear that people would think I was cheap. Turns out most people were relieved because they also didn't want to be the one constantly spotting everyone. The money difference was subtle but real. I was bleeding cash through small generosity that added up. $20 here, $40 there, $60 there. When I tightened that up, it was easily another $100 to $200 a month I kept without becoming antisocial. And unexpectedly, it made friendships cleaner. No invisible tab, no resentment, just clarity. The third Dutch Hobbit stock was about transportation and buying stuff. The Dutch culture has this calm respect for not upgrading your life every 5 minutes. Habit 6. I embraced good enough transportation. Not necessarily biking everywhere. Depending on where you live, that might be a fantasy, but I did start defaulting to the cheapest reasonable option. If I could walk, I walked. If public transport worked, I used it. If I drove, I combined errands like an adult who has learned pain. Habit 7. I used a 24-hour rule before buying anything non-essential online. This one was almost comical because so many things I needed at 11:47 p.m. became completely irrelevant by lunchtime the next day. Habit 8. I repaired or bought secondhand before buying new. I started with the easy wins: clothing, small appliances, furniture. The Dutch are basically Olympic level at secondhand buying. So I tried it, and honestly, it was kind of fun, like a treasure hunt, but for my bank account. These habits didn't create one giant savings number. They just stopped the leak. And stopping the leak is half the battle. The fifth and final category was the most important for lazy investing: automation. Habit 9. I made saving automatic, small, consistent transfers right after payday. Not whatever's left at the end of the month, because if you wait until the end of the month will laugh at you. For me, it started with $50 a week, then $75, then $100. I increased it only when it didn't hurt. Habit 10. I automated my investment contributions the same way. And I need to be really clear here. This isn't me telling you what to invest in. I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just saying what I did in my own experiment. I chose a simple, boring approach that I could stick with, and I set it on autopilot. Because I know my personality. If I have to make a decision every week, I will eventually decide to do nothing. Automation removed my emotions from the process, which is, honestly, a public safety feature. Habit 11. I kept a buffer checking account balance and treated it like a wall. This was very Dutch to me, a quiet preference for stability. I picked a number, like 1 month of bare-bones expenses, and I refused to let my account drop below it unless it was a real emergency. If spending would break the wall, it forced a pause, and that pause saved me constantly. The fifth and final stack was social life and energy, because the Dutch are weirdly good at enjoying life cheaply. Habit 12. I planned social fun the Dutch way: simple, intentional, and not centered around expensive consumption. Instead of always meeting people at restaurants, I did coffee walks, potlucks, home dinners, game nights. And yes, it sounds kind of wholesome, but it worked. I also started doing a monthly subscription sweep. If I hadn't used something in 30 days, it was gone. The Dutch would never keep paying for an app out of guilt. They'd delete it while eating a sandwich and feel nothing. And that's the vibe I wanted. Now let me give you the timeline because I know you're wondering, Did this actually change the numbers, or did it just make me feel morally superior? Month 1 to 3, the changes were mostly psychological. I stopped feeling broke all the time because I stopped constantly buying little things. My spending got less impulsive, my checking account stopped doing that terrifying dip right before payday. By around month 4 to 6, I had real momentum. Between packed lunches, cost splitting, fewer impulse buys, and canceled subscriptions, I was saving roughly $400 to $700 more per month than before, depending on the month. And again, that's not some perfect number. Some months life happened and it was less, but this system held. By around month 9 to 12, I had a meaningful emergency fund built. Not huge, but enough that a surprise bill didn't feel like a personal attack. And here's the part that surprised me the most. The biggest return wasn't just money, it was sleep. I slept better. My chest felt less tight. I stopped doing that thing where you open your banking app like you're about to read your own medical test results. Also, because my money was calmer, my brain was calmer, which made me more consistent, which made my money even calmer. It became this positive loop. After about 12 to 18 months, I hit my original goal range. I had my emergency fund, and I had built a boring, repeatable rhythm that made investing feel less scary because I wasn't relying on willpower anymore. Now, what did I learn? First, frugal doesn't have to mean miserable. The Dutch approach isn't about punishment, it's about normalizing practicality. You can live well without performing wealth. Second, the biggest savings come from removing decisions. If you make the default behavior the smart behavior, you don't need daily motivation. And I personally do not have daily motivation. I have caffeine and vibes. Third, splitting costs isn't rude if you do it cleanly and consistently. The awkwardness is temporary, the financial clarity lasts. Fourth, I did mess up sometimes. I had weeks where I got tired and ordered takeout 3 nights in a row. I had months where I spent too much because I felt like I deserved it. But the difference was those slip-ups didn't destroy me anymore. The system brought me back. And here are the honest warnings. This is not financial advice. It's just what worked for me in my situation during my little Dutch Hobbit experiment. Your costs, income, and responsibilities might be totally different. Markets change, life changes, health changes, and some frugal habits can become unhealthy if they turn into anxiety or isolation. Also, please don't become the person who ruins every social plan by arguing over $2.17. There's a line. Even the Dutch have a line, probably. Always do your own research, DYOR, and if you need personal guidance, talk to a licensed professional who can look at your full situation. So, what's your next step? Do one Dutch thing today. Just one. Option A, pack tomorrow's lunch tonight. Make it absurdly easy. Sandwich, fruit, water, done. Option B, cancel one subscription you forgot you were paying for. You know the one. Option C, set up an automatic transfer, even $25, into a savings account right after payday. Not because it's big, but because it's automatic. And automatic beats perfect. If you want, I made a simple free Notion checklist for the full Dutch way habit stack, like a tiny cultural immune system you can copy without thinking. It's linked in the description. And I'd love to know which habit would change your life the fastest: packing lunch, splitting costs, or the 24-hour rule. Drop it in the comments. I read them, and honestly, it helps people learn from each other. If this video gave you a calmer, more realistic way to think about money, hit like, subscribe, and stick around. My whole thing here is lazy investing, mindset, and building wealth without pretending we're robots. Thanks for watching, and yeah, I'm probably gonna go make a sandwich now.